Let's see how many people thumbs down this video before they watch it. What's up, my Yu-Gi Bros? I'm your host, one, the only, the RJB0. Welcome to Yu-Gi-Oh! In Business Casual. Today we discuss how you can win more by playing more meta. Wait. Relax. I'm only talking about if you're already playing a meta deck. Allow me to explain. So this weekend I went to regionals, and I took Clifforts, and I did not do so hot. In fact, I went X3. I even lost 2-0 to Shadows, which supposedly should be my best matchup. Now, I acknowledge I did not play as well as I could have. I did not get any sleep for the 24 hours before the event, and that was probably a bad idea. But the other thing I noticed was that I was not alone in the way that I was thinking about my theory. Now, I had never taken a Tier 1 deck to a major tournament before this weekend. I have traditionally brought rogue decks to regionals and events like regionals, and as a result, I was going into that regional with the mindset I've had that's been successful for me at other regionals, which is that I'm going to bring a deck that does its own thing, but it's mainly going to be winning because of the meta calls I'm making. So I made Clifforts assuming that Burning Abyss was going to be the most popular deck at the tournament, which it was. So I ran things like 3 Stormforth in the main deck, and a ton of back row hate meant to make sure that I am not going to lose to things like Fire Lake and other Burning Abyss strategies on turn 1. Now once again, I was not the only person thinking like this. I saw tons of other decks at the regionals running Clifforts in a similar manner. Many of us, I'm sure, had seen the ARGCS list, which included Decree and Vanity's Fiend and of course the Stormforths. It seemed to me, however, that all of these players, including myself, ended up at the bottom tables with records like mine or worse. Very few Cliffort players actually made it to the top tables for the majority of the tournament, and what I noticed about those players was that they were doing something profoundly different from those of us at the bottom tables. They seemed to be running hardly any meta calls, very little back row hate, no Stormforth in the main deck, and only 2 each of Skill Drain and Emptiness. That's when it struck me. The reason why Clifforts and Shadows have been struggling so hard is because they've been trying to be anti-meta when they're a meta deck. Every meta deck is meta for a reason, and that reason is usually because that deck does something better than all the other decks in the format. Burning Abyss makes outs, Shadows make unbreakable boards, and Clifforts put down damage. So I realized if my deck does something better than every other deck in the format, why would I expect it to win doing anything else? The important takeaway from this whole thing is actually really simple. If you're playing a meta deck, play it more meta. Almost every deck has a bad matchup, and as players, our instant reaction when we're facing up against a bad matchup is to run cards that make that bad matchup seem easier. Cards which provide outs for individual strategies that matchup is going to have. But the problem with that is, if you're running individual outs to an opponent's strategy, your opponent is going to have more of that strategy because that's what their deck does. The same goes for you. If you're playing against a bad matchup because your opponent is always going to have outs to your strategy, then why wouldn't you just do more of that strategy so those outs don't matter? If you're running Clifforts, make it so that you see Scout more often. Make it so that you can recycle Scout. People started running triple Apocryphort this weekend. The Chaos variant of Shadows with Denko Sekka and with this mini Chaos Dragons has really good matchups because it creates unbreakable boards and constant field presence better than any other variant of the deck. And that's what Shadows do. The most successful meta decks aren't built with their opponent in mind. Sure, you run outs. You know that you're going to be facing against opponents. You know what ratios of what cards to run just to make sure that your opponent can't steamroll you while you're trying to do your thing. Beyond that, why should you care about your opponent? If you're playing meta, your deck already does something better than your opponent. Do that thing. This doesn't apply to rogue decks as much because generally the reason why rogue decks are rogue decks is because they do what they do slightly worse than another deck in the meta. Rogue decks succeed when they run meta calls that are successful outs to the current meta, while the meta struggles to have outs for their deck. So that's today's piece of theory. If you're running a meta deck and you're having trouble with matchups, do what that deck does more. Stop trying to make meta calls in your main deck. You don't need to. Your deck is already good enough as it is. This sounds like some kind of weird like body positive pep talk, but it's true. So I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, hit that thumbs up button. If you did, let me know why in the comment section below. And of course, subscribe for more decks discussion, analysis, and general Yu-Gi-Oh! Shenanigans. Thank you guys for watching. I'm your host, the one, the only, the RJB0, and I will see you tomorrow at the second part of the ban list according to logic. I gotta jet, guys. See ya.